Blog Talk Radio.
So you want your charity to succeed. It's no secret that combining online and offline techniques is the key to modern-day fundraising success, and practical advice is what you need. The Nonprofit Coach with Ted Hart is the perfect place to learn from experts around the world who, along with our host, provide advice you can use. Ted Hart is without a doubt one of the foremost nonprofit thought leaders. Also a successful author, his books cover a broad range of topics from major gift fundraising to use of social media and how to succeed online. Ted lectures around the world, but now he's here for you. From the latest in charity news, technology, fundraising, and social networking, Ted and his guests help you maneuver through this economic downturn in the charitable sector to greater levels of efficiency and fundraising success. Remember, this is a live call-in show. Become part of the show by adding your voice. Call now at 347-324-3080. After the show, you can find all our podcasts at tedhart.com. Just click on radio links. Don't forget to dial 347-324-3080. Now, welcome the host of the Nonprofit Coach, Ted Hart.
Well, and welcome here back to the Nonprofit Coach. A brand new year, 2012, is here. We've got a very full show for you today. We've been away. We've missed you. We hope you've missed us. We've been away for the holidays, and now we are back with a full schedule for you here in 2012. Today's going to be a very exciting and very special show. I'm really pleased to kick off the new year with Secretary of State for the state of South Carolina, Mark Hammond, will be with us today here on page 2. So don't miss the opportunity to call in and ask questions about the role of the Secretary of State, the work in South Carolina, but also broadly about the regulation and support of charitable activities in states throughout the United States. That call-in number is 347-324-3080. You can also join us over in the chat room. I do see someone over in the chat room right now. And if you prefer, you can also email me at tedhart@tedhart.com. For those of you who are familiar with the show and those of you who are new, you can join us on page 1 by following along with all of the radio links that we provide to you each and every week here on the Nonprofit Coach. That's available at tedhart.com. Just click on radio links and you'll find a highlighted link there that will take you to the very best of resources throughout the internet. And we highlight several of those here on the show, including news items. We'll be doing that for you throughout the year. We always start off the Nonprofit Coach radio show with page 1. Trying to get my page 1 music here. First up here on page 1 news, you will find over in the radio links today, coming to us from Nielsen McKinsey Company, the NM Insight blog is sharing with you information and insights into friends and frenemies over on Facebook. Why do we add and remove Facebook friends? Well, I think this is important for charitable organizations to understand the psyche of why people are using Facebook and how they are using Facebook. So to share some of that information with you today, Facebook users decide to add friends or remove friends, someone from their fold, through knowing someone in real life. It's a top reason cited for friending someone, 82%, and offensive comments are the main reason why people get the boot off from your friends list. That's about 55%. Now, why this is important for charities is it is that interaction of online and offline. As we have often said here on the Nonprofit Coach, online is not by itself going to support your organization. What is important is that there is a link and that there is continuity between online and offline. So that real life, real connection to your charity is one of the reasons why people may connect with you through social media. This research is specifically sharing us information about Facebook. Now, This research suggests that real-world interactions drive online friendships. Meanwhile, sales-oriented and depressing comments, which I don't think as a charity you're going to be using depressing comments, are what drives people to remove them from your circle. Facebook etiquette also plays a role with updating not too often but not too little, and having too many friends a consideration on your Facebook users. Now, social media activity also plays a role in decisions, as research indicates that men are more likely to use social media for careers, networking, and dating, while women use social media primarily for a creative outlet, to get coupons and promotions, and to give positive feedback. Now, more men add friends based on business networks or, I guess, for dating, physical attractiveness. Women are more likely to friend based on knowing someone in real life or to remove them due to offensive comments. Now, we've provided you a full link to this information over in the radio links today at tedhart.com. So at tedhart.com, click on radio links and you'll be able to follow along. Next up here on page 1 news comes to us from the UK. Bravo to Cancer Research UK. Cancer Research UK has been chosen by Tesco as the Charity of the Year in the UK for 2012 in a partnership that charity hopes will raise over £10 million. The company will be encouraging staff, customers, and suppliers to raise funds for the charity. It will top up funds raised by staff by 20%, up to a maximum of £500,000. So bravo to the folks over at Cancer Research UK for that designation. Next up here in the page 1 links you will find today is some good news for those living in Arizona. Arizona law has been changed to offer more deductions for donations. So if you're in Arizona as a charity, new state law allows income taxpayers to deduct certain donations to charities from state income tax. According to Arizona's revised statute, individual income taxpayers can claim donations up to $200 in credit on their state taxes, and married couples who file jointly can claim up to $400. So read all the details about the change in the Arizona law for donors and the charities they support. Next up here, it's a new year. Maybe for you, it's a new job. How do you look for a job in the nonprofit sector? Coming to us from Silicon Valley, mercurynews.com shares with us tips and highlights on how you can find a new job. Now, according to the National Center for Charitable Statistics, there are 1.6 million nonprofit organizations registered by the IRS in the United States. They also say that 9% of all wages and salaries in the country come from nonprofits. Now, that's significant. Almost 10% of all wages and salaries come from nonprofits. And we often think as a sector and certainly as a society that nonprofit organizations are poor, they don't have many resources, and they're not that significant. And in fact, throughout the country and certainly in concentrated communities throughout our country here in the United States, nonprofit organizations are, in fact, job creators. Nonprofit organizations are, in fact, doing important work within their communities and in many cases can be engines that help drive a local economy. And so there are opportunities for employment at nonprofit organizations, not just your local or national charity organizations, but nonprofits include 501c3 organizations, private charities, private foundations, chambers of commerce, hospitals, fraternal organizations, civic leagues, and many, many more. So we have a very broad sector that we support as an organization. It takes a very special kind of person to fit into the nonprofit culture, and I think those of us who have been around for a while know that you just can't pick up your skills from the for-profit sector and drop them down into the nonprofit sector. There are very unique skills that are necessary to succeed. TechSoup, which we often talk about here on this show, is an excellent source of information, and TechSoup stock is a great way to get donated technology for your organization. They are the technology place for nonprofits, and they state on their website that many people working in the nonprofit sector find the experience rewarding and fulfilling. Working in the nonprofit sector, however, is not without its stresses. Nonprofit salaries tend to be lower. and issues dealt with can be overwhelming. And certainly to run a well-run charitable organization on very tight budgets does take some unique skill. Of course, there are lots of ways to find ads in newspapers and other publications. Huge fan of the Chronicle of Philanthropy and their jobs section. Definitely sign up there. They have some of the better jobs. Lots of online job boards, and of course, don't miss out on looking for jobs on LinkedIn and Facebook. Certainly, using your own network is a great way to find your next job. So new year might be a new job for your organization. Still over here on Page 1 News, getting ready for Page 2. Don't forget today, our Page 2 expert is Secretary of State Mark Hammond from the state of South Carolina. You don't want to miss the opportunity to hear from the Secretary of State about the important work that he does to support and to provide that additional measure of ethics and legal oversight for nonprofit work. Over here on Page 1 News, again, you can follow along at tedhart.com. Click on radio links, and you'll find all of our radio links, not only for today's show, but the archives of all of the very best of links for the nonprofit sector, for our archives of all of 2011. Next up comes to us from The Economist. What they're talking about is, and it's kind of a little bit surprising, coming from The Economist, they almost seem surprised. The title of this article is 1,000 Points of Quote-Unquote Like. Raising money online is harder than it sounds. Well, you know, here, anyone who listens here on the Nonprofit Coach, we've never said that online fundraising is easy, nor should it be, because it should be based on relationships. It should be based on knowledge and technology that allows you to have transparency. What they put together is a well-written article, except for the fact that they do make it seem like it's surprising that money doesn't just come flowing in through social media. Anyone who listens here to the Nonprofit Coach knows that it is the interaction of online and offline, that it's still very much a human business based on relationships. What social media allows you to do is not to raise quick money, not to raise easy money, but it is a good way, a low-cost way for you to build a network of supporters, share information and ideas, build and enhance those relationships that can support your organization. But well-written, coming to us from The Economist. We've provided you a link over in the radio links today, so check that out, 1,000 Points of Like. Next up here on the Nonprofit Coaches, we're just getting ready for our Page 2 expert, and the opportunity to chat today with Secretary of State Mark Hammond from the state of South Carolina is to make sure that we share with you that we've got a full schedule coming up here on 2012. This is our first show coming back from the holidays, and one of the really terrific ways for you to make sure that you do not miss any information about the Nonprofit Coach is to go to our public information website, p2pfundraising.org. That's the letter P, the number 2, the letter P, fundraising.org, and just register right there for our newsletter. Or, hey, while you're over at tedhart.com, you can register for our newsletter there as well. Now, for those of you who follow us on Twitter, and we have over 1,535 people already following us on Twitter, you also get advance notice of the radio links. You get advance notice of all of the information regarding the Nonprofit Coach radio show. We also want to remind you that at tedhartmobile.com, get out your smartphones, go to your browser, and just type in tedhartmobile.com, and you will find that our mobile web service is now available for you. Over on the mobile web service, you can not only listen to this show, listen to the podcast from this show, check out our books and our radio links, but you can also read our newsletter. And each week in our newsletter, we also highlight a popular podcast from the past that is highly rated by those who have downloaded it and have listened to it live as well. This week's popular podcast is a showing of the AFP Wiley radio show here on the Nonprofit Coach of Joshua Burkholz. When Josh was here on the show on March 15th, 2011, he shared with us insights about fundraising analytics. Don't miss that opportunity to listen to the podcast from March 15th. Joshua Burkholz was here on the Nonprofit Coach. Now, you also have the opportunity here with the Nonprofit Coach to interact with others around the world who are interested in people-to-people fundraising, who are interested in success online. We have 1,482, as of yesterday anyway, members in our LinkedIn forum, our group over on LinkedIn, which is People-to-People Fundraising, P2P Fundraising. You can join us, and you can ask questions, interact with people around the world, and get answers to some of your most important questions. So lots that you can do. Good to prepare for the new year. So just to recap, join us over on LinkedIn in our sponsored group, over 1,400, almost 1,500 folks on that list. You can utilize our mobile service at tedhartmobile.com and join us over on Twitter for those updates. With that, we're going to wrap up page 1 and move right on over to page 2 news today. Now, Mark Hammond is not only the Secretary of State for the state of South Carolina, but is a known advocate for effective use of charity activities. On November 5th, 2002, he was elected as South Carolina's 41st Secretary of State. 4 years later, Secretary Hammond went on to claim victory in November 2006 and again in 2010. Secretary Hammond easily won a third term in office because of the excellent work that he does. The main objective of Secretary Hammond's third term in office is to work with lawmakers to increase the protections of charitable donors. Each year, he issues his annual Scrooges and Angels program. He encourages charitable givers to educate themselves on how charities spend their donations. And we think that the important work that he does adds credibility to charities not only in South Carolina, but lends his effective voice to charitable activities throughout the country. Welcome here to page 2 of the Nonprofit Coach, Secretary of State Mark Hammond.
Ted, good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's great to have you back on the show. You were briefly on page 1 news when you were talking about the announcement of the Scrooges and Angels program. But now that we've got more time with you and we can really sort of get into your philosophy, we can talk about the role of the Secretary of State, we can talk about the leadership that you provide to other Secretary of States across the country. Why don't we start off with who is Mark Hammond and why have you decided that as Secretary of State, for all of the job and the big weighty job that the Secretary of State has on your shoulders, why have you decided to make charities an important part of your tenure?
Well, Ted, South Carolinians are some of the most giving people in the country. Just several years ago, I think South Carolina ranked in the top 10. So we're a small state, but we have a big heart. But with that, we want to make sure that people don't take advantage of that generosity, and especially with this economy, we want to make sure that with limited resources, those that are giving, the money is going to those programs to help those who are really in need out there, not only in South Carolina, but across this great country.
And as you do that, now you've got now just tell our listeners today, why Scrooges and Angels? What is it? How many years have you been doing that? And what do you think that does in South Carolina?
Well, it brings attention to charity and charitable giving. This is our 16th announcement last November. And it wasn't started by me, but it was my 11th announcement as my 9th announcement as Secretary of State. And what we want to do is right before the holidays, when people are bombarded with solicitations, we want to have a public awareness campaign and let charitable donors here in South Carolina know that before they decide to contribute to some of these organizations, they should check them out. We like to say, check them out before you write the check. So what we like to do is recognize 10 organizations that we deem as angels, and these are organizations who are giving 80% to their programs. Of course, they're registered here in the Secretary of State's office. They use a lot of volunteers. They have to be in existence over 3 years. They have minimal fundraising costs, and we pick charities throughout the state with diverse purposes, like hunger and health care, the homeless, and conservation. And we pick different organizations from throughout the state, and we like to recognize them. These organizations that we deem as angels greatly appreciate this recognition. It's helped them with their contributions, and it gets attention for them. So it's been a wonderful program here, and something that I'm enjoy participating every year, and we look forward to continuing that here in South Carolina. But
now you
then
shared
again,
with
on the
us
other hand,
the criteria. Yeah, go ahead.
But then on the other hand, we recognize 10 organizations that are giving very low percentages of their charitable contributions to their stated program purposes, and that are spending tremendous amounts of money on professional fundraising, and organizations that sometimes less than $1 on each dime is actually going to fund those programs. So we also want the charitable donors to be aware that there's organizations out there soliciting that are contributing very low percentages, and those are the ones they need to check out before they decide to contribute. And they can do that through the South Carolina Secretary of State's office. We encourage people to call or go to our website, and we feel like we have one of the most informative websites in the country. You can type in the name of a charitable organization, and it will give you the last financial information from their financial filing or 990 here in the Secretary of State's office, and we'll actually give you a percentage on the web page of the amount of money going to programs.
Now, just for our listeners to be able to check that out themselves, I believe that website is www.sc, as in South Carolina, SOS as in Secretary of State.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. And on the right side of the page, you'll see search charities. It's alongside search corporations and notary search, but you'll see it there, search charities. Click into that, type in the name of the organization, and it'll give you the last report that we've received here in the Secretary of State's office.
Now, you also take telephone queries, which is 1-888-242-7484, which I guess spells the word charities.
That's correct. And we encourage anyone to call. That's a toll-free number, and if they have any questions about a charitable organization, we'll be glad to assist them.
Now, you shared with us the criteria of what you look for in a charity that might become an angel or might get on your angel list. How do charities actually come to your notice? Do they apply? Do they lobby you? Do their donors get you? How do you actually find the ones that you recognize each year?
Each year we'll go into our database and we'll do a query, and we start at organizations who are 80% or above to the programs, and we'll start with there, and from that we'll start looking at the different organizations, looking at their financial reports, make sure they're in good standing, and then we'll select 10 from that basis. But then this year we also added the opportunity for nonprofits to write a letter of recommendation. And we had about 20 organizations that a letter was sent in for a nomination to the Angels list, and 2 of those we actually listed as Angels this year. So I really appreciated that interactive, and I think that's added a lot to the announcement also.
And my understanding is that charities cannot or are not chosen for more than 1 year.
That's correct. That's and I was wanting to mention that before we ended our conversation. But yeah, a lot of these organizations that are deemed as angels call the following year, and they want to know, well, what did we do wrong? Why are we no longer angels? Well, they're not a fallen angel. What we do is we recognize these organizations once, because there's so many wonderful organizations here in South Carolina and throughout the country. It's not just limited to South Carolina charities. So we want to spread the wealth, so to speak. We want to recognize as many organizations as we can. So each year we recognize 10 new angels. So if you're not on that list the next year, that's not because you're in trouble or you've fallen off. It's just because we want to recognize as many organizations as we possibly can that can benefit.
Now, it doesn't mean that someone is a fallen angel, but I'm curious, have you ever had a fallen angel? Has anyone actually moved from the angel list to the Scrooge list?
No, not since I've been Secretary of State and been doing the announcement. All the organizations that we have recognized, to our knowledge, have not fallen into the Scrooge category.
Well, that's
and those are usually organizations like we start with 80% or above for angels. We start with around 30% and below for Scrooges. So it would be a real fall for some of these organizations to get
right. I mean, it really would
category.
be a change in business model if they were to follow on to that list.
And I heard you speaking earlier about the impact that nonprofits have economically, and here in South Carolina, I can tell you that it's over $1 billion, the nonprofit community in our state. And one thing that I've also implemented since being elected is a nonprofit advisory council, and I have really enjoyed this. Twice a year, I meet with officials from the nonprofit community, and we discuss things as far as the Secretary of State's office, as the person who oversees the Solicitation of Charitable Funds Act, and questions that we have, as well as concerns that the nonprofit community has. And I think it's bared a lot of fruit here in South Carolina.
Well, and I'm curious to talk more about that, because I think that is an understood, poorly understood aspect of the nonprofit sector, of how broad it is, what it really does for the economy. Because I sort of feel, and you can tell me if you think I'm being way oversensitive, but I kind of feel like the nonprofit or charitable sector becomes a bit of a punching bag in sort of political realms, in that there isn't really an understanding of where they fit. So we're sort of an easy target. Yet financially and for the economy in many ways, not only do we help a lot of people who are in need of help, but just the economic engine of the nonprofit sector. And it seems, I mean, certainly you have those numbers at hand. Do you think I'm overly sensitive, or do you think that there is an understanding of the importance of nonprofits to our society?
Oh, I think there's a tremendous impact. I mean, and that's one reason for the angel list. Again, I want to help these organizations because there are a tremendous amount of people out there who are in need of their services. And I've always had this attitude that I feel like the nonprofit community can get resources to those in need much more efficient and better than government. And I would, and that's why I want to support the nonprofit community. But then, like I said earlier, on the other hand, we can't let individuals take advantage of that generosity. There has to be transparency, and there has to be accountability. But some things that we discussed here in South Carolina that has been very beneficial would be like our online service now for charity registration. That was come about through our work with the nonprofit community and making the process simpler and easier here in South Carolina. Also,
and of course, what you're talking about now, just for our listeners, is that South Carolina is one of, I believe, 40 states in the United States that do require charitable solicitation registration, and that's what you're talking about?
That's right. Each year, they have to file either the state financial report with us or submit their 990. If they have 501c3 status and they raise less than $20,000, they're exempt in South Carolina. If they raise over $20,000, then they must register and submit that financial form here in the Secretary of State.
Each of the 40 states that require registration also have a fee, and I believe that your fee is $50.
That's correct, and
okay.
That was a part of. I think it sounds maybe not like a big thing, but I believe it was a big thing before in South Carolina. Say your calendar year run from January to December, then you needed to file your financial report with us by May 15th. But then you had to remember to pay the $50 and register to solicit before July. And a piece of legislation that I was able to get passed revised the statute, and now when you send in your financial report, you also register to solicit. So and that come about with the great communication that I had with the nonprofit community, and we made that at the same time, and that has helped a lot of folks in the nonprofit that after they file their financial, they may not think about the Secretary of State's office again and then forget to register by July. So we put all that together.
One of the things that I wanted to get some advice from you, because here on the Nonprofit Coach, we're always trying to think of practical applications for information. We're going to take just a real quick little break from our discussion with Secretary of State Mark Hammond. And when we come back, Secretary Hammond, what I'd like to do is ask you to share with our listeners today your perspective on interacting with politicians, on interacting with government from the charitable sector, so that those who are listening today come away with a little bit more of an understanding from your office, from your perspective, and hopefully some of that will be transferred across the country as well. We'll be right back. Grab your calendar. We want to make sure that you have the information on the next several editions of the Nonprofit Coach with Ted Hart. Next week, we will have here on the show the official public release of the Atlas of Giving 2011 Annual Giving Data Report and the 2012 Forecast of Giving with expert Rob Mitchell. Don't miss that. It's going to be a terrific show to not only be able to look backwards on data, but also to put together your plans for 2012 based on the Atlas of Giving's forecast for 2012. Then on January 24th, we're going to have Sandy Rees here. She is a certified fundraising executive and is going to be speaking to us about her book, Get Fully Funded. We also have a very special edition of the Nonprofit Coach this month, or next month on February 17th, will be the Nonprofit Coach of the Green Show. We'll be talking about how to green your budget, how to purchase in a more green way. So make sure to mark your calendar. We'll be posting before next week's show all of the shows in February. We do want to make note that on January 31st, we will not have a live edition of the Nonprofit Coach, so that's a good day to mark on your calendar to get caught up with more than 70 podcasts of the Nonprofit Coach. We're going to head right back to Secretary Hammond and page 2. Secretary Hammond, I wanted to ask you, how is it best for charities to interact not only with your office, Secretary of State office, but if you might give us some insight into charities interacting with state government?
Well, here in South Carolina, we have an organization called SCAMPO, which is South Carolina Association of Nonprofit Organizations, and they are instrumental, again, in my Nonprofit Advisory Council. We meet twice a year, and usually that's when we discuss legislation. We try to meet before the session begins, and then we meet during the session, and they give us legislative updates, federally and state, on bills of interest to them. Now, even as Secretary of State, if I had revisions to the Solicitation of Charitable Funds Act that I wanted to make, I would have to contact a legislator and have a bill introduced, and then hopefully I would be set for committee, and I would be able to make the case of why that bill needs to pass and become law. So we interact with the legislature and the nonprofit association and discuss revisions that we think would be beneficial to the state of South Carolina, the nonprofit community, as well as the Secretary of State's office as the regulator.
And there are organizations of that sort in nearly every state in the United States. Are you suggesting for our listeners today that you feel that that's the conduit to government, or are there direct connections to government that might also be beneficial?
Each, there's nonprofits throughout this state and different communities throughout this state. So just like anyone else who feels like legislation should be introduced or certain laws should be passed, I would encourage them to contact their local delegations. Each county here has a delegation. Each nonprofit has a representative in the area where they have their organization. So they need to contact those legislators and talk to them just like anyone else would about what they believe should be law or revisions that should be made.
Now, just to remind all of our listeners today that this is a live call-in show. You're welcome to call in at 347-324-3080. I also see folks over in the chat room. You can ask questions there, or you can email me at tedhart@tedhart.com. And I do have an email question here from Jennifer for you, Secretary. And it's following up, I think, on the point that you made earlier, just asking for a little bit more information about charitable solicitation registration.
Well, here in South Carolina, if you want to solicit charitable contributions, you need to register in the Secretary of State's office. It's $50. Now, there are a host of exemptions like religious organizations and things like that, but then once you register to solicit, then you can begin asking for contributions. Now, you cannot tell individuals that their contribution is tax deductible until you receive your 401 status from the IRS. Once you receive that, then you can tell the contributor that their contribution is tax deductible. At the end of your fiscal year, again, like if your calendar year is January to December, then by May 15th of the following year, you would need to either submit the South Carolina financial report here that we have in the office or submit your 990. And that's the information that we use to inform charitable donors throughout the state of your percentages and expenses and how much you're going to programs, and that's where we derive the information that we put on our website.
And I do a lot of lecturing around the country, and I always make note of the importance of charitable solicitation registration. And I find that this is often confusing to charities, even seasoned charity executives. They do confuse this with their IRS nonprofit status. They even confuse this with their tax-exempt status. And oftentimes I'll run across charities all over the place that really do not realize that there is a separate requirement in most states in the United States, 40 states in the United States, for this registration. Do you find that a lot of charities are also confused in interacting with your office on that point?
We have found some that are confused. They believe that you register and maybe you just have to register that once, but that's not the case. That's you have to register each year with us and pay that $50 to solicit along with your $9.90. So it's not a one-time fee. That's an annual fee that you have to pay here in South Carolina.
And that's for any charity that is substantially raising money or attempting to raise money in the state of South Carolina.
That's correct.
That's not just for charities that are actually housed in South Carolina.
That's right, yeah. Out of state, if they have a charitable appeal or they are soliciting in the state of South Carolina, has to pay the $50 and register. And then also professional fundraisers, if they enter into a contract with a charitable organization, then they have to file a report here with the Secretary of State's office, tell us the name of the organization, how long the campaign is going to last, and then at the end of the campaign, then they have to send a joint financial in to the Secretary of State's office stating the revenue that was collected.
Now, one of the benefits to the operations of the sorts that you have in South Carolina and then throughout the United States is, of course, the database that's available and the transparency that you help provide to the charitable sector. I wanted to make note of, and I'm guessing that this is a bit of a point of pride for your office. There's probably lots of examples of this, but one that came to my attention just a few weeks ago in South Carolina in Orangeburg. Specifically, there's an Orangeburg horse rescue operation that was actually put out of business. They were turning over 23 animals to the Humane Society. And in the particular article that I'm making note of, Phil Serrata, who is the organizer of this at the T&D, I guess that's the Times and Democrat paper in South Carolina, specifically noted that one of the things that came up in their evaluation of Stormy Farms was that there was no record of charity registration with your office, and that was one of the things that tipped people off.
Well, if they raised less than $20,000 and had the tax-exempt status, then they would be exempt and not have to send an annual report to the Secretary of State's office. But then again, going back to the Scrooges and Angels and our public service announcements, this is one reason why we do so much to talk about charities here in South Carolina, because we are like a lot of other agencies. We have limited resources, so we rely on people to call us to give us information or to inquire about these charitable organizations. And when we do have to make a case against a nonprofit, a lot of times that's where we get the information that we need to go in there and send a notice of violation.
And I think that's one of the things I really appreciate about your work and Secretaries of State throughout the United States is drawing attention to the regulations that do oversee this industry to make sure that donors are protected. Because in this particular case, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with this Stormy Farms case, but it turns out that this organization was not even registered as a charity. There's I gather you have a division of public charities in South Carolina, and that there was no record of registration. In fact, this person had really put themselves out there as a charity, but in fact was not a charity, was not registered in any way, in any legal way, and so they have agreed to close their operations and to adopt out the horses. But here's an example of someone who just decided, gee, it would be nice to give me money, so I'll just say I'm a charity and act like a charity when in fact I'm not.
Well, and that hurts all the wonderful organizations out there, because if people feel like they're being taken advantage of and there's no accountability or transparency, then I think all charitable organizations are going to hurt, because people are going to be more reluctant to give. So, again, that's why we work so hard to do our public service announcements, and I travel throughout the state to talk about charitable giving. But also this goes back to the toll-free 1-800 number. I run a 30-second spot on cable during the holiday season, and that's why we encourage so many people to contact the Secretary of State's office before they decide to give to these organizations. And like I said, it's very simple. You can go to our website or you can call our toll-free number, so please check them out before you decide to give.
Well, and I'm sure that you're familiar with the folks over in Anderson, South Carolina, over the Independent Mail, and in a wonderful article that they put together, really based on your office, based on the oversight that you put together. They made note of the fact that even the savviest of givers can be fooled by a sob story. And I was wondering if you could kind of fill us in on how does that happen, and what do you do to help people not fall for it?
Well, again, we do everything we can to inform or educate the charitable donors here in South Carolina, but I know that's very, very tempting, especially when you have a person who's soliciting for an individual. And now there is an exemption for people who are soliciting for individuals up to $5,000. So if it's someone who has gotten sick, who is having surgery, I think a lot of those are solicitations that we have throughout the state when it's a person who unfortunately is having health issues and they're asking people to donate. But even those are supposed to file an exemption with us if they raise less than $5,000. But I think because of a lot of the circumstances and say a hospital stay or a visit to a hospital coming up, they just don't think about filing that exemption with us here in the Secretary of State's office, but they should.
Now, one of the things I think, Secretary Hammond, that you are aware of here on the Nonprofit Coach is that we do have a special place in our heart for the environment. Certainly, I'm author, one of 6 books is the Nonprofit Guide to Going Green. We do a regular monthly special edition of the Nonprofit Coach called The Green Show. I was particularly pleased to see your designation this past year of the Carolina Wildlife Care as one of your 2011 Angels. And I was wondering, I don't know if that hit the top of your list or not, but I was just wondering if you might share us a little bit about that kind of organization, because certainly drawing attention to the wildlife in South Carolina certainly has quite a beautiful country there.
Yes.
Why an organization like that might have been chosen?
Well, each year, we want to have 10 wonderful organizations, but we also want to have a list of diverse organizations, that provide different services. And each year we always recognize an organization like Carolina Wildlife Care. They're based here in Columbia, South Carolina. Their last financial report said that 87% was going to programs, which is a wonderful percentage. Just to give you a little information about Carolina Wildlife, it rehabilitates sick, injured, or orphaned animals with the goal of returning them to their natural habitat. Last year, it treated approximately 3,000 patients and responds to 15,000 hotline calls each year. Has been an organization, since founding in 1989, the organization has admitted over 45,000 animals, representing 200 different species. And after the announcement, just to tell you how being recognized as an angel can be beneficial, this is one of the organizations that reporters went out to speak to and actually done a report and showed their facility and showed the animals and talked about the service that they're providing.
So that's a real point of pride, obviously, for South Carolina. And as I said, I was particularly pleased to see that they were chosen this year. So the Angels, not only a good idea to donate to organizations like that, they've passed muster in your office, but are they also, they tend to be homegrown charities or extensions of national charities. Do they become a point of pride to the state overall, or is it sort of just a list that comes from your office?
No, I think I take a lot of pride. The state takes a lot of pride in those organizations, and these organizations are very appreciative of the recognition. And I know a lot of the organizations, we give them a nice certificate, and they frame it, or we have it framed for them, and they place it in their offices for the public to see. They're very, very proud of this recognition, and I know many organizations have told me how beneficial this recognition has been to them. Now, we do recognize out-of-state organizations, but the majority of them are usually organizations here in the state of South Carolina, and we like to recognize organizations who rely largely on volunteers, and see this publicity, this recognition also helps them in recruiting volunteers for their organizations.
Well, I would imagine that having that designation would draw more attention and would draw more volunteers. Now, in your statements, you say that most of the Scrooge charities are based outside of the state. Is that just because Carolina charities are just more ethical?
Well, not necessarily. We find that the charities that have the lowest percentages are the ones who hire the professional fundraisers who engage in telemarketing. And a lot of the telemarketing calls are from out of state, and they're calling on behalf of these organizations, and they enter these contracts, which I told you about earlier, and a large percentage of the revenue collected goes to the professional solicitor or telemarketers, and most contracts that are sent here to South Carolina is usually a 80-20% split, 80% to the fundraiser, 20% to the charitable organization. So once you pay the fundraising and your other expenses in your organization, it really brings the percentage left for programs down. And in turn, those are the ones that we recognize as the angels, because there's just not a lot going to the charitable purpose. Sometimes, 1 cent on or 10 cents on a dollar, which is just not good at all.
and that'll certainly earn you a Scrooge designation if that's the way that you. So is it mostly business?
And a lot of the cases that we make here in South Carolina involve the professional fundraisers or the telemarketers. Each individual solicitor, they're called, has to register in the office and pay $50. And unfortunately, when we have to place organizations on notice, it's because of misrepresentation. And once again, that's part of our awareness campaign. We need people who are receiving these phone calls to call us to let us know that they feel like they have been misled, so we can check it out. And a lot of the callers will say 100% going to the charity when that can't be the case. They will not identify themselves as a professional fundraiser, and those are where the violations stem from. And unfortunately, I would say unfortunately, last year with these violations and other violations, we collected a record in South Carolina of $234,000 in fines. That's the largest amount that we've collected since I've been Secretary of State in 1 year.
At the same time that you've collected a record number of fines because of people not meeting their expectations, I found it very interesting that you also said that charitable solicitations across the state have increased in the last 4 years, even through the Great Recession. What do you attribute that to?
Well, again, I believe it's just because South Carolina, again, is a small state, but has a big heart, and we have always answered the call, whether it's serving our country in the military or helping those less fortunate. South Carolina has always wanted to contribute to these charitable organizations and help others. I think it's just because we're such a state that's blessed with wonderful people who are very giving people and caring people.
One of the things I'd like to mention to all of our listeners is, and I wanted to thank Jay Early. Jay Early, thank you so much for clicking on the like button at Blog Talk Radio and /nonprofit coach, which is our direct link. You can find that at tedhart.com as well. What that allows you to do is to receive direct notices of any changes to the Nonprofit Coach and posting of new shows. So thank you, Jay, for joining us, and we encourage all of our listeners to like us over at Blog Talk Radio, which is our online host. Taking a look at the clock, it's always amazing how fast time can go on a show like this. Secretary Hammond, I was wondering if you might give us a look in South Carolina, but also give us a peek across the country in terms of what you see as the future of charitable organizations, and certainly coming from your perspective as an elected official.
Well, I believe that there's still a tremendous amount of people out there that are in need. I see more organizations coordinating with other organizations and pooling resources to better help the community out there, which I believe is a very good thing. Hopefully we're starting to turn the corner and get out of this recession, and it's my hope that the economy will improve and people will be able to go out and get jobs, and then maybe alleviate some of the pressure that is on the nonprofit community, and the resources are really depleted. And if that happens and that occurs, hopefully a lot of these organizations will be able to build up their resources and continue to help those who need their assistance. As far as here in South Carolina, we are looking to make some revisions to our Solicitation of Charitable Funds Act. We want to add uniformity here and have the requirements in South Carolina a little more uniform with the IRS, and I think that would help the nonprofit community. Anytime that everyone's on the same page, it seems to help us as well as those organizations who need to register. So I'm looking for a very productive year here in South Carolina, and again, I encourage everyone to give and help their communities, help others who are in need, but then I also ask them to check these organizations out and make sure that the resources are going to truly help those in need.
I'm just wondering, in the State House, when there are discussions about economic growth, economic diversity. How much does nonprofits actually come up in those kinds of discussions, or is nonprofit, and I think you gave the number of over $1 billion in the industry in South Carolina, does it end up being a bit of an afterthought?
Well, I don't necessarily think so. There's a lot of organizations here in South Carolina who receives grants from state government to help in their organizations. I mentioned that one of the criteria in our Angels list is that you receive a minimal amount of money in grants. So as long as the state government here and even county governments and city municipalities are helping with these nonprofit organizations, they're going to be active, and they're going to be here soliciting a portion to help their community. And I also buy into the argument that it is beneficial for the state to help certain organizations because of the services they can provide and can get those resources to those in need faster than state or federal government can. So in many cases, it's a real good partnership with nonprofit and government.
What are your concerns for the new year for charitable organizations in South Carolina and, again, across the country? What are your concerns?
That there is an increased demand on their resources, that the economy doesn't turn around and contributions remain low and that they have to continue to struggle out there to get the resources they need to operate. And I don't think that's just here in South Carolina, but that's probably all across the country. Again, they need to continue to stay active and to have people look at legislation to make sure that there's no legislation out there that would impact the nonprofit community in an adverse way. And if it does, they need to speak up. I know there's been a lot of changes to the 990. Right now, I'm not sure if there's changes currently that are being discussed, either statewide or federal, but that's something that you always have to stay on top of to make sure that you know what's happening out there, what's being discussed, and what direction they're wanting to go in.
I want to explore that topic of being aware of the industry in just a moment. Just a real quick reminder for all of our listeners today.
Remember, our podcasts and archives are always available 24 hours a day at tedhart.com. Click on radio links. If you're listening live today, the phone lines are open. Call in and ask a question by dialing 347-324-3080. Now, back to the Nonprofit Coach with Ted Hart.
Secretary Hammond, you brought up the topic of changes to the 990 and other federal issues as federal and state governments are cutting back on their budgets. I think you had mentioned that from your perspective, charities are overall efficient in their operations, but yet they're being harmed by cuts, and as you said, the demands on their services are increasing. Where is that balance for society and not just for government budgets?
Again, I mean, there's everyone in state government as well as in your household has more than likely had to cut back, but we're hoping for better days. Here in South Carolina, I know that they have an anticipated $900 million in additional revenues, so hopefully that will ease some of the burden that everyone has had to endure over the past 3 years due to this recession, and there may be some resources available, at least to sustain current levels of funding, or maybe have some restoration to funding. So, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right, exactly. We're just winding down the show here. We're almost up. Just to remind everybody that next week's show is on Tuesday, January 17th, and we will have the official public release of the 2011 Annual Giving Data Report, and I think even more important, the 2012 forecast of giving here. Secretary Hammond, just thank you so much for your time here today. We know how valuable that is, but you've given us a lot of insights. I'll just give you the last few moments here to just say goodbye to our audience.
Well, Ted, thank you. Thank you for having me, and it's been nice to talk about South Carolina, the nonprofit community, and what we do here in South Carolina as the person who regulates the nonprofit community, enforces the Solicitation of Charitable Funds Act. We've given the toll-free number. If anyone has any questions, please call that number. We'll be glad to answer those questions or to assist them in any way that we can. And also, as I have stated earlier, there's a lot of wonderful organizations out there. They're doing great work. There's limited resources, so I believe people want to contribute. They want to help out, but then they also
we're going to post a copy of your link. We got to go. That's our show for today.
Thank you.
Secretary of State Mark Hammond.
Check out those organizations. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Nonprofit Coach Radio Show with Ted Hart. Tell all your friends to check out our production schedule and download our iPod and iPad-friendly podcast at tedhart.com. Thanks for listening to the Nonprofit Coach.
When it comes to cleaning your house, who doesn't wish un galán with a trust fund swept in and passed the mop to your evil stepmom like in the telenovelas? Hola, it's Chiquis here, and although life isn't always like in the soap operas, Fabuloso does bring a clean that's always over the top. Get your home dramatically clean anytime you like, without any evil mama drama. Just long-lasting lavender freshness. That's Fabuloso, taking the drama out of any mess.
Fabuloso's 2x concentrated formula provides 2 times more active ingredients versus non-concentrated Fabuloso Original. Use as directed.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. People always say it's good to unwind, but that's easier said than done. The exception, Chumba Casino. They actually make it easier done than said, or at least the same. Chumba Casino is an online social casino with hundreds of casino-style games like slots and blackjack. Play for fun. Play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Sign up now and collect your free welcome bonus at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.